right, and here we are. Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. Great to be back. We are here for the next couple of days. Wanted to try as hard as I could to get here for these last 2 days before Christmas and the end of the year. And voila, here we are. Telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address is lrushmo@eibnet.us. It's amazing how things don't change. I mean, they do, and then they don't. And it is all tied together with the fact that Donald Trump was not reelected or had the election stolen from him, whichever you choose to believe. I'm in the latter camp on this. I'm too many oddities here to be flat out coincidental. But before I get to the essence of what I'm referencing here, Trump tweeted something out today, and I just want to share it with you. He said, distribution of both vaccines is going smoothly. He said, amazing how many people are being vaccinated, record numbers. Our country and indeed the world will soon see the great miracle of what the Trump administration has accomplished. They said it couldn't be done, and they did. Trump promised that we would have a vaccine by the end of the year. I mean, sometimes he said we'd have it before the election, by the end of November. Whatever, we do. We have a vaccine, 2 of them now, for the COVID virus, much sooner than anybody with feet planted firmly in the establishment even acknowledged was possible. They said it wasn't possible. Trump is right about that. This is American exceptionalism on display. This happened because an outsider was in charge of this kind of Operation Warp Speed. This is something you have to understand. And a person from the Washington establishment, the deep state, however we refer to it, wouldn't have even tried this, folks. They wouldn't have even thought it possible. They wouldn't have believed it possible to have a vaccine in less than 10 months. Now we've got 2 of them. But we would have never even had this on the table as a possibility because people inside the Beltway are not interested in solving problems or solving them quickly. That's like the nature of all bureaucracies, is not to fix things, thereby eliminating their own need. Why would you fix something if it would mean the end of you or your plan or your program or your maybe even your very bureaucracy, your department? And so the track record on the creation of vaccines, we still don't have a vaccine for AIDS. I wonder how people with AIDS feel about this. I mean, we have shown here that if we use what we Americans have at our disposal, that we can accomplish a lot of things that many other Americans tell us we can't do. And we do it at warp speed. Yeah, I think Trump is going to make a big deal out of this in the Georgia Senate campaign, which he says he's going to make one more trip there soon or very near the actual runoff election itself. But then back to the area where things do not. Well, one more thing about the vaccine. Wall Street Journal story just to confirm this. U.S. starts delivery of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Trucks carrying the shot will start rolling out 2 days ago, with injections slated to commence on Monday. Immunizations using the newly authorized COVID-19 vaccine from Moderna Incorporated are slated to start yesterday, boosting the mass inoculation campaign that was launched last week. So I just wanted to establish not just Trump saying it. It is actually happening. But turn the page and you go back to things that still are not changing, things that do not change when the establishment again reasserts control. The media today, as is the case every day, is full of fake news. Oh, by the way, grab audio soundbite number 1. I am glad to see that there is an echo out there. Cheryl Atkinson this morning on C-SPAN's Washington Journal. The host is Pedro Echevarria, and he spoke with the host of the syndicated political affairs program Full Measure, Cheryl Atkinson. She's got a new book, Slanted, How the News Media Taught Us to Love Censorship and Hate Journalism. Now, Echevarria says you have written books taking a look at the media. What does this book have apart from the other? In other words, how is this book different from your others?
The devolution of the death of the news as we once knew it.
There it is. Stop the tape. There, right there. There is no news anymore. Hallelujah. A second voice. There is no news. Folks, this is so crucial to entiende, to comprende, to understand. There is no news. Everything is oriented toward the advancement of the Democrat Party agenda. Okay, redo the bite to the top, and here it is. I promise I will not interrupt it this time.
The devolution of the death of the news as we once knew it, which has been observed probably by most of the people who are listening and watching today, but they don't necessarily know what's behind it. I posit that this trend in censorship and social media is born of the same types of political and corporate interests that have successfully controlled news narratives the first 15 years of this century before they then focused on social media and the internet because they saw in 2016 that the public could still get unfettered access to studies that powerful interests don't want us to see and viewpoints and people. So they decided to figure out starting then, and they have done so quite successfully, how to control the information we see online.
It's not just online, it's the information we see anywhere. But it's crucial to understand. And no, I didn't play this because I wanted to sit here and brag. You people know that I don't brag because it ain't bragging if you can do it. I'm just happy to see the sentiment spread. There is no news. It is so crucial to understand what we see. I don't care where you get it. I don't care if you get it on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. There is no news anymore. There literally isn't any journalism. And that began even further back than 2016, 2015. It just hit light speed after the election of Trump. But things were trending that way. She says, been observed probably by most people who are listening and watching today, but they don't necessarily know what's behind it. She says that the trend in censorship and social media is born of the same types of political and corporate interest that have successfully controlled news narratives. And that pretty much sums it up. There is a vested interest here in using the media to advance the agenda of the left and have people still think what they're watching is news. And if that's all people watch, then and if they don't figure out that it's not news, and why would they unless they're told persuasively? And so there's some more of it here today. The media is full of BS, fake news today. You probably heard there's a COVID relief bill. Have you heard that, Mr. Snerdley? There's a COVID relief bill. Did you know that about Brian? $900 billion. Am I right about this? $900 billion COVID relief bill. But that's not what this is. This is things don't change. Congress did not pass a massive COVID relief bill. They passed a massive giveaway to questionable socialist nations and sketchy Democrat Party constituencies. Georgia, part of the old Soviet Union, got millions of dollars for something that's not even specified. Vietnam got $169 million. Egypt, $1.3 billion. Pakistan, or as Obama says, Pakistan, got millions of dollars for something to do with gender. I don't know, are they in favor or opposed to it? Well, whatever, they got millions of dollars for it. Sri Lanka, $15 million to fix a boat. Not kidding, $15 million to repair a boat. Ukraine, our old friends in Ukraine, $453 million. I guess that is so they can keep paying Hunter Biden and his dad. Why? $453 million to Ukraine. What this is classic income redistribution or money laundering. Ukraine could well be. But guess what, folks? Restaurants and bars, people or places where people meet and congregate, the hardest hit of our small businesses. I mean, this division of our economy is being wiped out almost purposefully. In blue states, restaurants got nothing in the $900 billion COVID relief bill. But you know what? Chuck Schumer got relief. He got money for comedy clubs. You know why? Jerry Seinfeld lobbied him. You hadn't heard that? Well, what are you reading? Jerry Seinfeld basically lobbied Chuck Schumer. Hey, the comedy clubs are being really hit hard here. So Schumer threw in some, I don't know how much it is, but it's a little bit of a tap. But the point is that the hardest hit of all of our small businesses in a COVID relief bill got zilch, zero, nada. That's restaurants and bars. The Kennedy Center for the Arts and whatever else, $40 million. Meanwhile, Americans, $600 each. Now, if the COVID relief bill consisted only of giving each American $600, they left it at that, then the cost of the COVID relief bill would have been $198 billion. But the COVID relief bill, which is 5,000 pages and which members of Congress didn't read, which they never do read, nothing's changed, $900 billion. So $600 for every American would equal a $198 billion bill. Yet this bill is more than $900 million. Do the math. We've given away $700 billion to corrupt cronies, corrupt countries that are allies of the Democrat Party. It needs to be vetoed. Trump needs to veto it. I don't know if he will. I don't believe he will. But it needs to be vetoed. Now, the bill is being touted, and I can't wait to get into it. This bill is being touted as a major, major achievement in attacking climate change. I kid you not. They are bragging about how this bill is going to do so much for climate change. It'll take me a little while to explain all this. I've got all the time in the world. I think you do too. Here it is, gender programs in Pakistan. $15 million for democracy programs, $10 million for gender programs. Pakistan. Sri Lanka, up to $15 million for the refurbishing of a high-endurance cutter. It's a patrol boat. $15 million to fix a boat, Mr. Snerdley. There it is, in Sri Lanka. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama to address key factors that contribute to the migration of unaccompanied, undocumented minors to the U.S. $505 million to these Central American countries to, quote, address key factors that contribute to the migration. So we're going to $505 million to study to find out why unaccompanied, undocumented minors come to the United States. We can tell them that today. I'll do that for $100 million. I'll cut them a break. I will tell them why undocumented, unaccompanied minors migrate to the United States for $100 million, not 505. Let's see here. What else? Yeah, there's $453 million for assistance for Ukraine. There's a tax break for race horse owners. I wonder how that ended up in the bill. Meanwhile, you and we get $600. Oh, and they extended unemployment benefits for a few weeks and so forth. But see, nothing changes when the establishment asserts control. And we've got, listen to this. Now, I better take the break. Otherwise, I'll have less time on the other side of it. Sit tight, folks. Be right back.
Rush Limbaugh, because we know for you, only the best will do. On the EIB Network.
Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone. And yes, today is like all other days, folks. I woke up and in a few split seconds realized I had woken up. And at that very moment, I thanked God that I did. Every day is day to day. Some days are good, some days are bad. You don't know from day to day how it's going to be, so you accept each day as it is given to you and what you can make of it. One other thing in this bill. Family members, I kid you not on this, family members of illegal immigrants are now able to get stimulus checks, and it's retroactive. So they can also get the previous $1,200 that was given out way back when. This is a tweet from Ryan Fournier at 10 a.m. this morning. Family members of illegal aliens are now able to get stimulus checks. Let me reread that with proper emphasis on proper words. Family members of illegal aliens, it says here. Family members of illegal aliens are now able to get stimulus checks under this new COVID relief bill. And it's retroactive, so they can also get the previous $1,200 given out. So they're going to get the families of illegal aliens. It seems that in every piece of legislation that comes down the pike that involves government grants to individuals, it seems like illegal aliens end up being at the top of the priority list, which should not surprise people who have been paying attention to me and people like me for the recent years. Now, back to the climate change aspect of the bill. I like John Barrasso, folks. He's the Republican senator from Wyoming. But this, he said, Republicans and Democrats are working together to protect the environment through innovation. That's his comment on the COVID relief bill. This historic agreement includes 3 separate pieces of legislation that will significantly reduce greenhouse gases, meaning we're going to capture and store carbon dioxide produced by power and manufacturing plants. Why, this is the way Democrats talk. We're going to authorize a 15-year reduction of hydrofluorocarbons that are used in everything from cars to air conditioners. They're considered a major driver of global warming and are being targeted world. And we, Republican Senator, touting this in a COVID relief bill. This is George Winston tickling the old 88s from a CD that goes all the way back to the 1980s called December. And we're back at the EIB Network. Great to have you with us. Let me get started on the phones here. We got David in St. Louis. Welcome, sir. Great to have you. Hi.
Hi, how you doing, Rush?
Just fine. Thank you, sir.
Good, that's good.
How are you doing, David? How's it going with you?
I'm just a little upset with there's not one politician, not one on either side of the aisle that's willing to say what you did today. You know, the president should have a news conference where he goes up there and tells everybody about the ridiculous amount of money being spent everywhere besides our country.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute now. I hear you on this, but we are now, because of COVID and all the spending, we're $30 trillion or on the way there. $30 trillion, and it doesn't matter anymore to these people. It literally, there are no limits. It's like debt is irrelevant. It isn't a problem. We haven't seen the economy crash from debt in our lifetime, so why would it crash now? So there are no guardrails. There's no red light on spending, whatever they need. So $900 billion. Now they know that you're sensitive to it, but the reason that they won't tell you this is they may not know. They haven't read it. It's 5,000 pages. 5,000 pages to give every American $600. Well, that's not what the bill does. And look, folks, I'm not one of these budget hawks anymore because of what I just told you. The idea that there is some kind of limit on federal spending for the sake of the economy, for choking off the private sector's access to capital. These people, and you have to admit that it started this year. The Trump administration, there was literally no limit on the spending. COVID-19 came along, and we weren't going to be hassled. We're not going to have our hands tied by any budget limits. We had to do what we had to do to deal with this. And we got Operation Warp Speed, and we now have 2 vaccines out there. We also have bailed out the American people throughout the year. Not sufficiently, but we've done it. We've bailed out certain businesses, certain business sectors, and so forth. But point is, $30 trillion in debt. I remember when the Tea Party formed, 2010, because they were upset at the amount of spending in Obamacare, which was less, at least on paper, than $1 trillion. Now, look, I'm not trying to be a harbinger or a messenger of negativism. This is just the way it is. Let me read you a tweet from somebody. I'm not going to tell you who the tweet is, but I want to ask you if you agree with the sentiment here. Are you ready? Here comes the tweet. This is why Congress needs time to actually read this package before voting on it. Members of Congress have not read this bill. It's over 5,000 pages. It arrived at 2 p.m. yesterday, and we are told to expect a vote on it in 2 hours. This isn't governance. It's hostage-taking. Who wrote it? That's exactly Mr. Snerdley. Correctly identified the author of this tweet as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Do you agree with the sentiment? You do. So you agree with AOC 100%. It's hard not to, I'll admit. Hard not to. So that's the answer, David. This is welcome to the end of the Trump experiment. That's what this means. This is the establishment going back to doing things they love, the way they love. This is exactly why Trump was elected. I think this is exactly why Trump was reelected, but he's had it taken from him, stolen. I will always believe that, no matter how difficult it becomes to prove it. They're celebrating this. The establishment is celebrating this. Republican establishment celebrating this accomplishment as somehow a great attack on climate change. It's a COVID relief bill. It should cost no more than $198 billion if the objective is to give every American $600, which, frankly, if we're going to start giving money away to deal with, is this enough? Now, we might start, the budget, Mr. Limbaugh, we got to be very careful here about budgets. Can't break them. Oh, now it's a little late for being concerned about that, not as we approach $30 trillion. There's terminology in this bill like promoting technologies and creating jobs. The technologies involve carbon capture, emission reduction, replacements for the hydrofluorocarbons used as coolants in air conditioning and refrigeration systems? As Jazz Shaw at Hot Air writes in a post on this, you see, that's how they like to describe such initiatives, to put a pleasant spin on them. A better translation of those passages would be to say that taxpayer money will be shoveled into green energy and carbon reduction companies who will ostensibly be working to achieve those goals while just coincidentally making a ton of money for a small number of people. This is the prelude to the Green New Deal, and it's in the COVID relief package. And we've got Republicans out there singing its praises. There's a great deal more than just climate change jammed into this thing, too. Nobody in Congress or the media had a chance to read it before it was passed. And that is an answer to the guy from St. Louis's question, why am I the only one telling you? It's because they didn't read this before. They couldn't have. They were given 2 hours. It's 5,000 pages. Come on. Not even their clerks or their legislative assistants could have read it. I mean, there's money for invasive species mitigation, water management on the Tibetan Plateau, gender programs in Pakistan, and piles of money, India, Tibet, other nations. Dig in if you want, but don't doubt me. It is all in there. But it is turned into a climate change bill. That is the primary sales point, and how they're getting around excusing it. And there is no climate change. Go through this again. But there is no man-made climate change. There is no way to stop it. But you know what? I'm going to ignore it. That's been my reaction to all this for 30 years. But I'm going to go a different way. In an attempt here to once again be persuasive to those of you in this audience. For all of these years, I have tried to beat the truth into people. Well, I haven't beaten anybody, but I mean, I have consistently attempted to point out that there is no man-made climate change. It's not possible. We do not have that kind of power. We don't have the power to affect the climate of this planet. We just don't. But that apparently doesn't permeate. So let's attack it from another direction. Let us assume that they are right. No, in fact, we can do two things at once. Let's assume that man-made climate change or any kind is happening. And then what is the second part of that? Here comes Biden making a big deal. He's got a huge climate change agenda. It's one of the first things he mentions every time he gets into his agenda. And the purpose or the reason for that is to create or extend the idea that there's a crisis. Democrats need crises and they need demons. And we're going to go back to the way things used to be. For 4 years, we had somebody in the White House who was defeating this kind of thinking, this kind of agenda every day, Donald Trump. Now we're going to go back to the way it was for all of those years prior to Trump. And Biden's effort here with climate change. I'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll play. Okay, let's assume that there is climate change. It's going to happen and that we can't stop it, which is part and parcel of their claim. Remember now, we have the power to affect the climate. We have the ability to change it and make it worse. But somehow, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Except spend a lot of government money. Oh, yeah. Just sit tight and I'll explain to you exactly what I mean when we get back.
Rush Limbaugh, pointing the way on the EIB.
And welcome to Christmas week here at the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, your guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, tumult, chaos. A return to the old way of doing things, which was so problematic. And yes, even in the good times. Rush Limbaugh at 800-282-2882. You know, Rich Lowry has a column today on the Biden climate change agenda, which, again, like Cheryl Atkinson, I'm glad to see it because it is, look, I don't mean to sound, it's great to see a certain way of thinking amplified out there, so it's more than just one place. Here's the thing about the way the left is going about approaching climate change. They give us this horrible snapshot of the future. Climate change is going to raise the temperature. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. It's going to have hurricanes and volcanoes and all kinds of horrible, rotten things. And what are we going to do? Why, if you listen, we're just going to sit there and live through it. We're just going to sit there and suffer. This is how the Democrats never understand the dynamics of a capitalist economy. They pass a massive tax increase. Remember the yacht tax? They came up with a massive tax on the people that make boats. A massive individual tax increase on the people that make boats. And what did people do? They started buying boats in foreign countries where there was no tax, no additional tax. So who got hurt? The people that actually make the boat. The people that work making boats were laid off because there were no boats being sold because there was a new tax. The Democrats think they raised taxes on, like California. California is just, I can't wait to tell you this. California has just passed a wealth tax on people who are leaving the state because of high taxes already. Wait till you hear how they're doing it. So they tax and tax and tax. People leave the state. The Democrats think they're just going to sit there and pay the punishment. That's not how people are. Well, the same thing with climate change, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm still watching. You have to ask me every 10 minutes. Talking to my TV, not anybody, so I'm not being rude. Don't worry. I can talk to my TV any way I want to talk to. Now, to maintain that these rapidly increasing climate temperatures are a threat to human existence entails believing that human beings are going to be snuffed out. We're just going to sit there and die if the planet gets a few degrees hotter. What are they talking about? A couple degrees Celsius? And what are we going to... Why, we're going to die. Why would we die? Because we're going to sit there and we're just going to suffer. We're going to sit there and we're going to sweat to death. We're going to sit there and we're going to thirst to death. We're going to sit there and... because climate change is going to kill us. But that's not what happens. Human beings have this marvelous ability called adaptability. Human beings have the ability to adapt to hardship left. It's the name of the game for the human existence. We're the only species that can do it. Well, we're not the only ones. We're the only ones knowingly doing it. Some species evolved to deal with various challenges to their lives, and they don't even know it's happening because they're stupid animals. But we have the ability to purposely and with a design structure adapt. The Democrats believe, for example, that if the sea levels rise, which is not going to happen like they say, but let's say they do, we're just going to stay there in our homes and be flooded. One day you will read a story how Rush Limbaugh, famous radio talk show host, died today as the sea level expanded and swallowed his house. Limbaugh did not have the sense to leave his house before the high water got there. Is that what we're going to do? People that live in the way of oncoming ocean level, just going to sit there and drown? If the summers, which is where it gets hot, if it gets much hotter in places that are unaccustomed to it, do you think we might install air conditioning? Like, let's take a place, let's go to, pick a favorite place. There's all kinds of places that even in the summertime don't get all that hot. But let's say climate change makes it get 2 or 3 degrees hotter. Well, Do you think people live there might install air conditioning in their homes? Or are they just going to sit there and sweat to death? It's not what we do. When faced with arduous circumstances, when faced with challenges to our lives, what do? Why, we invent a vaccine, or we find ways to mitigate the oncoming destructive force, whatever it is. It's the name of the human game. Let's say that there are droughts out there. Let's say that it gets dry. Let's say that it gets parched. You think we're just going to sit there and die of thirst, or are we going to find a way to deal with it? Will we find a way to divert water to these newly installed, newly created drought areas, or are we just going to sit there and suffer and eventually die? If some of these areas become unlivable, we just going to sit there and die? No. We are wealthier. We are more technologically able than ever we have been. And we are not going to sit there and allow, if this list of disasters actually were to happen, we're not going to sit there and allow ourselves to die or suffer. We're going to adapt, which is what we've adapted to this point. There have been changes in our climate, been changes in all kinds of life circumstances. We've had to adapt, and but they never calculate that in any of these crisis-extending threats.
You're listening to Rush Limbaugh,
America's gift to broadcasting
on the EIB network.
Heck, my friends, even the polar bears, remember, we were told that they were dying out. There's more polar bears today than ever, by the way. Even the polar bears adapt. They find bigger ice things to lay on. And there are plenty of ice things to lay on out there. They're not melting, as we are told. Anyway, sit tight. We'll be back. Hour number 2 coming up. And here we are, back at it. Rush Limbaugh and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, America's real anchorman, America's truth detector, and the doctor of democracy. You know what? We actually do the news on this program. There is journalism taking place on this program. Now, I myself would have to say that I am a reporter, in the sense that I report what I learn, what's going on out there that you may not know otherwise. And evidence of that in our first busy broadcast hour today was some of the elements of the COVID relief bill. We have a $900 billion piece of legislation called the COVID relief bill, in which every American is to be given $600. Now, if that's all the bill contained, it would cost $198 billion. So let's round that up to $200 billion. But it doesn't cost $200 billion. It costs $900 billion. So if the COVID relief bill has basically 10% of its money for the American citizen, what the heck else is in this bill? And that's what we reported. That's what we demonstrated. And it is for the usual senseless, funny, oddball, weirdo things that end up in every piece of legislation that happens to be timed right before a possible government shutdown every December. It's loaded with pork. It's loaded with giveaways to friendly socialist nations. There's far more money in this bill for other countries, and there's $15 million in this bill to fix a boat, folks, a military boat in Sri Lanka. I'm not kidding. One boat, $15 million to fix it, to repair it. So in that sense, we report. There's probably more actual journalism happening on this program than you'll notice at the drive-by media. Pick your network. Grab audio soundbite number 31, Fox Business Network, Cavuto, Coast to Coast. This is Neil Cavuto, who, remember, chastised President Trump for taking hydroxychloroquine. He said, you take that, that's irresponsible. It's irresponsible for you to be telling people to take hydroxychloroquine. People die. It will kill you. It will kill people. You shouldn't. We found out last week that whatever the government health agency is, found out there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it may actually work. Isn't this amazing? After the election, after all this is over with, yes, it may actually help some people. That's right. The AMA, that's right. American Medical Association. At any rate, here is Gasparino. They have just figured out, the NFL has taken a poll, National Football League. They found out they have lost 17% of their fans. At least 17%. Here's the report.
The league's embrace of social justice issues apparently is resonating with enough fans that the ratings are off. And they found that of all the things that people are listening on why you're boycotting sports, why you might not watch a sports game, 17% of all the respondents, and that was the highest number, said it was the embrace of social justice issues that all sports are doing that's turning people off. Now, does that mean Americans are largely racist? I don't know if you could make that point. I'm someone who doesn't care about one knee. I support it. I don't think it's the most provocative social justice statement in the world. But a lot of NFL fans who generally trend conservative, heavily military, middle class, not rich, they don't like it. And, you got to know your customer out there.
All right, so all of us are racist. Charlie Gasparino, I don't know, but maybe. Does this mean Americans are largely racist? I don't know if you can make that point. But for me, I'm not somebody who doesn't care about one knee. Charlie, for all the other things you talk about, you're reasonably bright and intelligent. This isn't hard to figure out. This is not hard to understand. Been explaining this to people for a couple of years. I actually think it's more than 17%, and so does the league. There's a did I keep this story out in a separate? I must not have. There is a separate story on the NFL's ratings problem. What did I? Yeah, I put it somewhere else. It'll come up as I go through the stack here on the program. The league does not know its customer. The league wishes it had a different fan base, or at least a certain percentage of the fan base they wish were different. And they are running their business as though that difference existed, as though that they're running the business as though that section of the fan base doesn't exist, is the best way to explain it. So 17% in a poll they conducted are boycotting them. And it's probably, as in the case of many polls, going to be a higher number than that. People don't like this stuff forced on them in areas they go to escape it. It's no more complicated than that. People do not watch sports to be preached to politically. They go to sports to escape that. For 3 hours a Sunday afternoon, 6 hours maybe, or 9 if they watch all 3 games. But they go to escape it. They don't want to be lectured, and they certainly don't want to be blamed. And they don't want to be told by multimillionaires how unfair things are and how racist things are when they can't possibly be that bad. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be living the lives they are living, which are far more lucrative and far more wealthy than the average American who is a fan or a customer earns or has. And to be lectured to and preached to and then blamed. You know, an NFL player decides to take a knee because cops are murdering black people, and we're told we have to believe it, and we're told we have to accept it, and we have to understand it, and we have to oppose it. Otherwise, we're racist pigs or what have you. It's not the way to grow the fan base. It just isn't. You're not going to build support for star athletes if those very star athletes serve a new role of antagonizing the fans. But the owners have decided, or they have concluded, that if they don't support the players will strike or walk out and not play, and there'll be nothing. So they have to go through the motions of supporting the players and letting them put signs on their helmets and jerseys, racism sucks, whatever it is. That's not why people tune in to watch. But Gasparino's little last statement here. A lot of NFL fans generally trend conservative, and so what does that mean? Well, they're heavily military. Oh, yeah, they love murder, and they love guns, and they love missiles and rockets, and they love nuking people, right? And they're middle class. Well, that means they're stupid. They're not as wealthy as we are. They simply don't know enough. They're not rich, which he covered, and they don't like it. They don't like social justice. And you got to know your customer. It's not that conservatives don't like social justice. It's that they don't accept that it's real as a Democrat Party political plank. Social justice is simply an excuse to censor. It's an excuse to go in and deny people their freedoms and their rights and a whole lot more. And it is conservatives who are very much aware of this. This is a funny bite. Pete Hegseth of Fox News, this is last Wednesday. He was on Hannity. They were talking about what to expect from the incoming Biden regime. And this is what Pete said.
When I look at a Biden administration and the infighting of Ocasio-Cortez and all of that, our dear friend Rush Limbaugh, who is in our thoughts and prayers right now, wrote an op-ed about the Obama administration in 2009 for USA Today. He was supposed to write 200 words. Instead, he wrote 4 words. I hope he fails. And ultimately, because Joe Biden is the Trojan horse for the left, I hope he fails. I hope he's mired in that infighting that Ocasio-Cortez is going to bring, incapable of delivering for the left, incapable of finding the false unity he claims he's going to bring after what they've done to Trump supporters.
That's Pete Hegseth. That was on Hannity last Wednesday night. I'm not mistaken. I think it was the Wall Street Journal that asked me to write 400 words. They reached out to a number of opinion and media titans. Well, media leaders and one titan, that was me. And they asked for 400 words on the incoming Obama presidency, as though we were all enamored, as though all of us were simply overwhelmed with emotion and disbelievable. We had finally elected an African American as president. We're going to rip that racist monkey right off our backs. We're going to get rid of it. And they wanted to know how these media big shots and Titan were reacting to it. And I said on the radio, and I've responded to them in writing too, I don't need 400 words. I could do it in 4. I hope he fails. So Pete has decided to repeat that with Biden and say the exact same thing. We'll see if there is a similar reaction to Pete Hegseth saying it about Biden as there was to me saying it about Obama. Here's a quote from Rand Paul, or a soundbite from Rand Paul, who was upset about the COVID bill. And this was on the Senate floor yesterday.
If money really grew on trees, why not give more free money? Why not give it out all the time? Why stop at $600 a person? Why not $1,000? Why not $2,000? Maybe these new free money Republicans should join the Everybody Gets a Guaranteed Income caucus. Why not $20,000 a year for everybody? Why not $30,000? To so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of Democrats, if you vote for this spending monstrosity, you are no better.
He's exactly right, folks. I have used the same argument on the minimum wage. Minimum wage advocates come out there. We need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We need to raise the minimum wage to $18 an hour. And I've told you that you'll finally, if you raise it to these advocates, if you suggest, no, that's not enough, we need to spend more, you'll eventually reach a point where they will say, no, that's too much. Well, you used to be able to do that. For example, you have your minimum wage increase advocate, and you're talking to him. We need to raise the minimum wage at $20, and you say, that's not enough. $20, why not $30 an hour? Okay, I'll go for $30 an hour. Fine. And well, wait, let's not stop there. How about $50 an hour? Well, that may be a bit much. Well, why? Why is $50 too much? And $30 is fine. And you'll eventually learn that they have no basis for making their claim or their demand for 30 or 20 or 18. It's nothing more than a political football that they kick around. And they use it to point out how mean-spirited and unconcerned minimum wage opponents are. I don't care about people. And Rand Paul's exactly right. If we're going to give every American $900 billion, why not give every American $30,000? Well, I can't do that. It'd be too much. Why? We've got the guaranteed national income bunch out there that's proposing something similar. Why is it? He's exactly right about this. Why not 30,000? Why not 20,000? Instead, you're going to get $600, which would cost $198 billion. But the bill spends $900 billion. There's $700 billion in this bill that you are not getting. Quick break, back with more after this.
This Christmas, treat yourself and your friends to gift memberships to Rush 24/7.
You can watch the Dental Cam live. You can stream the program live wherever you are.
Wow everyone on your Christmas list with memberships to Rush 24/7. Order now only at rushlimbaugh.com. You're listening to the EIB Network. Want to lead an environment?
Okay, let's go back to the phones. We got Andy, Vista, California. Welcome, sir. Great to have you on the program today. How are you?
Oh, great, Rush. Merry Christmas. God bless you. We pray for you every day, so we know you're going to pull through this, my friend.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Of course, of course. So, part of we've been trying to keep the faith in every way possible here with everything going on, and the part that really has bothered me the most has been the indecency of the left, the indecency of the modern Democrat Party, and how they behave towards us, towards conservatives. And I've been trying to think through what's the source of this. And you know what? As we go back, I lay this at the feet of Bill Clinton, and I go back to the 1990s, and I think back to not just how he got away with it through the whole impeachment situation, the lying under oath, but even the weaponizing of the agencies, of Hillary destroying the life of Billy Dale and the travel office people. And I just go back to that lack of decency. And so if Bill Clinton wants a legacy, that's it. That's his legacy. He's the one who's brought this level of indecency because he's taught the Democrat Party they could get away with anything that they pull through because they're still not being held accountable.
Well, now, the last thing you said, there might be, I'm not going to, in a blanket way, agree, because I think it precedes Clinton in a lot of ways. They got away with borking Robert Bork. They almost got away with destroying Clarence Thomas. I mean, the Democrats have been, I think it starts with the borking of Bork. Ted Kennedy, I think this goes back to the 1980s. This, if you're looking for a point where the Democrat Party switched into an attack machine as a political strategy, I think it's Ted Kennedy and his lies about Judge Bork. And then they attempted to try. And by the way, who ran the effort to destroy Biden? I'm sorry, destroy Clarence Thomas. It was Joe Biden. Joe Biden was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee when the effort to destroy Clarence Thomas began. I remember I was I think it was Oklahoma City or Tulsa, I forget which. I was doing a Rush to Excellence tour stop. And it was a Saturday show that I had. And I remember I broomed everything that I had on my note cards to remind me. And I did an hour and a half on how they were destroying Clarence Thomas. And I could see on the faces of the thousands and thousands of people in the audience, they didn't know much about what I was talking. Which I said, okay, I've got to stay focused here because I may lose them unless I find a way to connect this to them. They had no idea. This was a C-SPAN show at this point in time. It had bled over into some of the CNN cable news networks. Fox News wasn't on the air then. It's 1990. It's before 1997, 96. So I remember I had to explain exactly what the effort to destroy Clarence Thomas was, who he was, and I think it worked because the nobody left. Everybody stayed at rapt attention. Now, the thing you said that is that they're not being held accountable and so forth is true, and that Clinton did probably contribute to the Democrats learning that they would be given cover by the media. And even that, though, I think would predate the Lewinsky story, which is what I was primarily talking about. But it's nevertheless an interesting theory that you have. You want to go out and tie the indecency of the Democrat Party to Bill Clinton, how it began. The thing that you've got to remember here is that some of it includes the Republicans now. I mean, the never-Trumpers, former conservative intellectuals, just signed on with eagerness to whatever the Democrats were doing in their effort to destroy Trump. And so it's a tough thing to just say it's the Democrats that are responsible for the indecency. I've always asked myself, well, when are the American people going to stand up and punish this at the ballot box? When are they going to stop rewarding this kind of decency? And I thought the election of George W. Bush might have been close to being a marker for that, but it turned out not to be. Anyway, quick time out, back with more in a sec. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, our friends at Hillsdale College get reflective this time of year. Hey, holidays can do that. I get reflective this time of year. The faculty and staff at Hillsdale appreciate the support that you show by participating in one more of their educational offerings. I mean, they like an attentive audience, and you are that. You're one that learns something significant from what they offer in the way of education far beyond their campus. Now, this year especially, they've put a substantial effort into their various online video courses and their publications, and every one of them is free to either watch or to read. They give more away at Hillsdale College in relation to education than anywhere else in this country. For 175 years now, Hillsdale has stayed true to its mission, which is to provide the education essential to preserving free government. And by the way, it's working. I still believe, I don't care what anybody says, I believe that we, as conservatives, are still the minority of our population. It's what makes all that's going on even more difficult to swallow. I really believe that we are. But that's for another discussion. Hillsdale teaches what's necessary for people to know that allows them to preserve free government. And they do this by creating and providing these free online education series focusing on the greatness and uniqueness of the country. Hillsdale doesn't take a dime of government money. That's on purpose. It allows them freedom to focus on their core purposes, learning, character, faith, and freedom, without any government mandates of any kind. So from them to you, thank you. To learn more about Hillsdale College, it's very easy. Go to rushforhillsdale.com. You'll be amazed at what you can learn there and what you'll find there that's available to you at no charge. And it's really valuable. rushforhillsdale.com. Lisa in State College, Pennsylvania. Hi, great to have you here.
Hey, Rush, this is the best Christmas present ever. God bless you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, listen, I wanted to talk a little bit about the order that vaccines are being given out. Obviously, the healthcare workers should be first. And having said that, people talk about the people in nursing homes and seniors getting it as a priority. Well, I'm a senior. I'm 69. And as far as the nursing homes go, if you give it to the workers that are going into the nursing homes, I don't think you really need to give it to the seniors. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to work and so on. And as a senior myself and retired, my husband and I have the opportunity and are blessed enough that we don't have to go to work. So we can stay home. So if it were up to me, I wouldn't get it. I would say, let's give it to the
wait
people.
a minute. Wait, I'm getting confused. Are you in a nursing home?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm just saying the priority that people are talking about are seniors and people in nursing homes. And I watched the first day that the vaccines were being given out, and they had all of these elderly people, in nursing homes getting the vaccines. And yes, I want to protect them, but I think the way to protect the people in nursing homes is to give it to the workers who are coming in rather than them. To the seniors themselves.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Because nursing homes have been, like Andrew Cuomo has used nursing homes to, shall we say, thin the herd of senior citizens.
No, but they're getting, the people in nursing homes are getting it from their workers and the people coming into the nursing home. So if you're giving it to the healthcare workers, including the maintenance people who work in the nursing homes, that should cover the people in them.
Yeah, but people in nursing homes are the most vulnerable. The elderly are among the most vulnerable. Now, the way this would work under Obamacare is they would be the last to get because their days of productivity are finished.
But see, that's in a way kind of my point, because I'm retired. Okay, let's go on to the people not necessarily in nursing homes, just the quote elderly. I would fall under that category.
Well, what do you think about reporters in the drive-by media? They're demanding that they should be at the front of the line because they're so essential.
No, forget them. But my point is, as a retired senior, I have the blessing of being able to stay home and to not go out. And if it's a question of the number of vaccines available, I would rather my vaccine go to somebody who needs their job, somebody who's working in a restaurant.
Oh, okay. I see. So you basically you want to sacrifice your dose.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. You want to sacrifice your dose to somebody who is in a greater need for it.
Correct. That is correct. Especially school teachers. We want our grandkids. We want our kids back in schools. They should certainly get it before me. As I say, I'm blessed. I'm retired. I'm able to stay home and not go out to work. I have a next door neighbor whose son and daughter both work in restaurants.
Okay,
chefs.
I hear you. Well, that's very thoughtful of you. That's extremely, extremely thoughtful of you that you would like to sacrifice your dose. I appreciate it and I understand it. I got a note from an acquaintance that's 67. He's 67 years old. And because he's 67 years old, he's behind 118 million people who are in line ahead of him, the way it's currently established, which means he might get the vaccine a year from now. But do you know that employees in liquor stores are ahead of seniors in the way this is being handled right now? And I'm just getting up to speed on the nature of the allocation, how it's being done, and some of it, frankly, to my eyes, doesn't make any sense. But I don't know that you could probably have that reaction to any system that they came up with. You know, members of Congress are trying to boot people out of line and trying to jump the line, I've heard. And they are also saying because they are essential. I mean, they are America's lawmakers. They need to be vaccinated so that they can continue to make laws, because that's crucial. That's what teachers would be ahead of you in line, Lisa, would be another way of illustrating this. But the fact is, we can't give everybody that wants a vaccine a dose right now. There's got to be some method of doing it. I appreciate the call. Barbara in San Antonio, you are next. Welcome to our show. Hi.
Hi, Rush. First of all, I want to say that I've been praying for you. And after being married for 37 years to my husband, who passed away 8 years ago, I really haven't prayed much. But thanks to you, I'm praying more again.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that.
I am one of the 75 million people who voted for Trump, and I'm very angry about the corruption of our election and the process of our stolen election. And I would like to know, is it possible for the rest of us to get a list of the politicians who are supporting Trump through this and the politicians who are not, so that we could know who we want to vote for in the next few elections and who we would not like to, or maybe who we would like to spend money to support?
Well, I don't know what you would eventually, or you would have to get a list of people that voted for Trump and voted against him. And I don't know how you're going to do that. Now, if you want a list of people who were verbally opposing Trump, who tried to make people think they hated him and didn't, but then voted for him privately and quietly and didn't want anybody to know. So I don't know how you're going to get the list that you want, because we don't generally divulge the way people voted. And that's the only way you're really going to know who supported him and who didn't.
Okay. All right. Well, we just want to do something, and it's hard to find anything we can do.
Well, there are so many people that are seeking additional things that they can do to want to have some kind of help, to be some kind of assistance to Trump, and it's very sweet. And you look at any number of things that I think, in one sense, give you just a possibility, rather than things like, well, if you want to find the people that oppose Trump and vote against him, that's cool too. I don't want to talk anybody out of that. But if people really want to do something above and beyond voting, I'll give you a suggestion. How about trying to recapture the public education system in America? Now, this is a very, very important thing, and it's very frustrating to me to see how people have allowed the public education system to be stolen from them. Right in front of them. They know it's being stolen. They're afraid to do anything about it. They're afraid that their kids will be adversely affected if they speak up. And so the left has been able to basically steal public education and turn it into an indoctrination of our kids rather than full-fledged education. I'll explain in greater detail in a moment. Got to take a quick time out, folks. Back after this.
Rush Limbaugh, making radio great again. You're listening to the EIB Network.
I want to share with you what Tulsi Gabbard has in fact, a couple things. Tulsi Gabbard. Grab audio soundbite number 5. This is Tulsi Gabbard last night on her Twitter page. She's a member of Congress from Hawaii. And she posted a video explaining why she voted against the COVID relief bill.
There is no way that anybody in Congress had the opportunity or the time to go through and read this bill to know exactly what was in it. I've been here long enough to see how provisions are snuck into these bills. Here's what's left for you. You get $600. I'll tell you, in Hawaii, that in most cases won't even cover 25% of your rent. It is an insult and a slap in the face to every single American in this country who is struggling because of this COVID pandemic.
Frankly, that encapsulates my sentiments on this. $600 when we're spending $900 billion, and some would say it's well into the trillions if you factor everything in here. $600? And this is Pelosi using her. This stuff could have happened before the election. I mean, there's so much to say about this. This stuff could have happened before the election. She withheld it. And now Tulsi Gabbard, $600 in Hawaii won't even cover 25% of the average person's rent there. And she makes a valid point. So the Democrats don't care about you. The idea that they do and Republicans don't continues to be one of these frustrating things. There's something else that Tulsi Gabbard has posted. Listen to this. Now, for months, the CDC has been telling us that the elderly are the most vulnerable. But now they're recommending that 100 million so-called essential workers, which means healthy people working in anything from liquor stores to telephone companies, that they can get the vaccine before our grandparents can. That members of Congress, like me, we can get the vaccine before at-risk seniors can. Now, why do you think this is? Mr. Snerdley, would you... well, he's not. He's screening calls. Let me ask, why do you think that seasoned citizens, in nursing homes or otherwise, wherever, would not be high on the list for vaccines? Now, you might want to say, well, if you look at Obamacare, they said that they're not going to be productive. There's no reason to spend a lot of money on keeping them alive because their days of productivity are behind. That's what Obamacare said. That's why people came along and considered death panels. Sarah Palin named death panels. There were death panels in Obamacare, and there were. But I don't think that's the explanation here, because the vaccine, while it does have some relationship to productivity, being able to work, most seasoned citizens, it is thought, are conservative. Most of them vote Republican. No, I'm just throwing it out. I don't even know that that's necessarily true, but I know that a lot of people believe it to be. Here's Bob. Bob in Coronado, California. Great to have you, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. I want to do some very simple math on the radio, which you've often cautioned about. But you started to do it about an hour ago, and that is basically with this COVID relief package of $900 billion, you take, if you'll let me round our population to 300 million people and divide that into $900 billion, that comes out exactly to $3,000 per person, $12,000 for a family of 4. And if I was Trump, I would veto this bill. I would say, look, pick a number and say, we want it. I would rather give $3,000 to all these people, which covers 5 times more than $600 covers. And I'm not going to sign this bill. And Trump would become the most popular president of both parties instantly. No money to Pakistan for gender studies. No money to the Sudan. None of the other BS stuff that's in this bill. Your thoughts?
I think it's interesting that it would, if you could up this to $3,000 per person, if the whole thing were devoted to the American people. and you round the population of 300 million, and you figure that each one would get $3,000. That would be fascinating. Envisioning Trump making the speech, but where I disagree, excuse me, I don't think that he would become the instant hero of the Democrats. I think the hatred of Trump is so ingrained that there's nothing he can do to turn Democrats, other than the ones he's already converted, into supporters of his. I think it'd be great if it happens, but I think that they've been so successful in manipulating the emotions of Democrats to just hate the hell out of Donald Trump, that even if he did that, I don't think that would be the end result. But even if I don't think that should be the reason he shouldn't do it either. It'd be a great point to make. It would wake people up whether they end up supporting him or not. And of course, it's a little late to support him because the election's in the rearview mirror now. But if you tell people that if the COVID relief bill were actually aimed at the American people, each American would get $3,000, but instead you're getting $600, that would be powerful.
He's America's adult. Rush Limbaugh on the EIB network.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to explain to you. I teased earlier. California, they passed this massive tax increase on the rich, so the rich start moving away. California says, oh, no, you're not. You do that, and we are still going to find you, and we're going to get your money. And I'm going to tell you how they're going to do it. As a lesson, as a precursor, stand by. Welcome back, folks. Great to have you with us. Rush Limbaugh back at the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Telephone number, if you want to join us in our final big broadcast hour today, is 800-282-2882. Let me ask you a quick question. What do you think Donald Trump's greatest legacy will be? What's that? Supreme Court. Well, here's my list, and I think I'm going to have to add that to it because that's none of my Supreme Court. 3 conservative justices, right, giving us a supposed 6-3 majority. Okay. Operation Warp Speed, i.e., the vaccine. Oh, by the way, I remember Pelosi, back in 2018, referred to a $1,000 tax cut as crumbs. Remember that? And she's out there calling $600 per citizen for COVID relief. Significant. $600 today, significant. $1,000 2 years ago, that's crumbs. As she attacked Trump. Okay, so Supreme Court, Operation Warp Speed, highlighting the need for national election reform, identifying the Chi-Com problem. Boy, that is such a big one. You realize Trump has been hammering the Chinese since he was opening his campaign in 2015, even before that. Trump is the guy who literally made news. Well, he made it be news that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden had a relationship with Chi-Com business interests. How about identifying the deep state problem? Exposing the fake news media? How about creating the greatest economy in American history by way of massive reductions in regulations, and tax cuts. I think one of the biggest legacies Trump's going to have is making us energy independent. And I tell you, I worry that this is going to be lost. I worry that Biden is going to reverse this. I think Biden's going to come up with a way to reinvigorate the Iran deal, and I think it's going to result in the United States losing its energy independence. Believe me, the United States becoming energy independent, that was not on the drawing board for globalists. The Obama crowd, that was no. That we can't accomplish our goals if the U.S. becomes energy independent. If the United States becomes a net exporter of energy, of oil, that gums up the works like you can't believe. You watch. I don't know how long it's going to take, but if we lose our status as energy independent, it will require purposeful strategies to bring that about. And if that happens, you'll have... If that happens, if the Democrats literally, if Biden and his crew actually succeed in revoking our energy independence, folks, that would be the biggest indication of what we're up against. How about bringing an unheard of level of peace and cooperation in the Middle East? And how did that happen, by the way? Why, I think moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Every president had promised to do it. Trump actually did it. And I think finding a way to get all of these Middle Eastern Arab states to unite with Israel because of Iran. And I'll guarantee you this, the Biden administration, or Obama too, is going to do everything they can to reignite the Iran deal, which will get Iran nuclear weapons. They're going to do everything they can to unwind what Trump did with Iran, including these remarkable new relationships with Middle Eastern Arab states and Israel. Now, my point is that only an outsider could have achieved all of that. There's nobody that works in the Washington establishment. There's nobody that is part of the Washington careerist establishment that would have even wanted to accomplish any of that. It would not have even been on their radar. Operation Warp Speed, like I said earlier, they would accept the notion you don't get vaccines for 4 years, 5 years. Takes a long time. Wouldn't even tried. China was not a problem. They wouldn't do anything to upset China. They wouldn't even think of. The deep state? Why, nobody was ever supposed to have heard of it. Nobody was ever supposed to have discovered it. They would not have facilitated that. They would not have created the greatest economy in history. They wouldn't have cut regulations. They wouldn't have cut taxes. If Hillary had won, why, we would have a continuation of the Obama economy, which was stagnation, and a belief in the theory that, well, there's a new era of decline economically, and the days of kids doing better than their parents are over. The American economy is not going to be strong enough to do that anymore. We don't deserve to be strong enough to do things like that, so you better get used to the new America, constant state of decline. But we're here to manage it for you. So they would have never thought to make U.S. energy independent. They would not have thought it was possible. So my point is, and of course the Supreme Court, I don't even think a standard Republican president would have stuck in with Kavanaugh. They would have broomed Kavanaugh at the first sign of trouble, for example. And they would not have tried for Amy Coney Barrett before the election. So right there, 2 of these 3 new judges would have never happened, even if there were a traditional Republican in the White House. So my point is, only an outsider could have achieved all of this. Fresh set of eyes, indefatigable spirit, relentless work ethic. This is a hell of a lot to get done in essentially 3.5 years. And only a bunch of collectivist socialists would stop at nothing to cheat this incredibly successful, helpful person out of a second term because they are threatened by this very list of things where you seek to identify Trump's greatest legacy. Okay, California. A California plan, this is the Wall Street Journal, has the story. This is from 4 days ago. I'll bet not many of you have heard about this. California's legislature is considering a wealth tax on residents, part-year residents, and any person who spends more than 60 days inside the state's borders in a single year. Even those who move out of state would continue to be subject to the tax for 10 years. The California Constitution probably, it says here, probably allows a statewide wealth tax on residents, but any effort to create a tax capable of reaching across state borders is likely to run afoul of the U.S. Constitution. Well, who's going to care about that? We got a Democrat in the White House, we got a Democrat out in the State House of California. Who's going to care about the Constitution? Here's the point. In California, they created a wealth tax. They're out of money. They can't print it. They can't go into debt like we can, like the federal government can. So they're constantly in need of money, and the way they do it is the way the Democrats always do it. Go after the rich, go after the wealthy. So they create this new wealth tax, which is forcing people to leave. Like I left New York in 1997. Now, the Democrats had not figured out how to, well, actually they did. They pursued me for over 10 years. Phantom audits and demands and claims that I was secretly living in New York when I was. Anyway, they have now said that if you think you're going to escape this tax by leaving California, you better think again, because we're going to tax you, the same wealth tax, we're going to tax you wherever you end up for 10 years. The California Constitution probably allows a statewide wealth tax on residents, but any effort to create a tax capable of reaching across state borders is likely to run afoul of the U.S. Constitution. Do they not know at the Wall Street Journal that the Democrats don't give a rip about the U.S. Constitution? Don't they know at the Wall Street Journal that nothing the Democrats or the left ever wants runs afoul of the U.S. Constitution? Now, the range of people that California proposes to ensnare with this tax is staggering. For example, every student attending college in California, anyone having a major medical procedure at a California hospital and needing an extended in-state recovery period, and those who spend 2 months in California away from New York or London winters. This is the 60-day thing that they're imposing. If you are in California for more than 60 days, not 180, if you're in California for more than 60 days, we're going to tax you as a resident, essentially. You see, under this tax law, there is no distinction between a non-resident from Minnesota and a non-resident from Dubai. The proposed wealth tax would fall on a star high school or college athlete who grows up in California, becomes a wealthy professional in another state after graduation. It would grab a scientist who develops a drug to cure cancer years after leaving California. I mean, it will basically allow California to slap a tax on productive people who leave the state to get away from these taxes for 10 years. I mean, it's just incredible. So this is how they're going to do it. Other states will then pick up on this. and institute the same kind of thing, because leftists cannot stop taxing people. I want to see how they're going to deal with this. Have you heard about the Rose Bowl moving from Pasadena? Well, they can't do the game because they're shut down. So the Rose Bowl is being moved to Jerry Jones Stadium, AT&T Park in Dallas. Thanks to the coronavirus pandemic and the strict statewide shutdown orders from Gavin Newsom, the college football playoff game known as the Rose Bowl will not be played in Pasadena. It's going to be played in Arlington, Texas, at AT&T Stadium, home of the Cowboys. State of California may not want your money, but Texas is going to be happy to take it. This decision was reached Saturday by the Tournament of Roses and the CFP management committees. It's all about playing the game in a venue that will allow family and friends into the stadium to watch it. So, these people, they're on their own. They are on a roll. They are being who they are. The American people will have no excuse not to notice it. Now, got to take a break. We'll be back. Stay with us. Hi, how are you? Great to have you with us, my friends, as we celebrate Christmas week here on the EIB network. We'll go back to the phones. Pendleton, Oregon. This is Richard. Hello, sir.
Yes, it's an honor to talk to you. I'm so happy I got through.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
For 30 years. My question is, if the Socialist Party ends up stealing this election, would President Trump run in 2024?
Well, I don't know. He says he's going to. He's made that clear on a couple of occasions. But who knows what's going to happen in 2024? Who knows what's going to happen in 2022 or 2020, even 2021? We don't even know. So, what is your point? You don't think he should?
I think that he should, and I'm kind of thinking that they might wish that he would have been able to win the election fairly, which is what he should have done. But that way, they would be done with him in their mind in 4 years. Now they're going to have to listen for the next 4 years, if they get away with this, about him running in 2024.
Wait, they are going to have to listen to him for the next 4, basically as he continues to constantly campaign for it. You mean?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so how could they have prevented that, or is that not your point?
Well, they might have been they might look back and think they would have been better off had they not stole the election from him. They would have been able to, in their minds, get away. They wouldn't have to deal with him anymore after 2024 because he's able to run for president.
There is no way. The only people think like that are us. We are the only people who think we win by losing. The Democrats don't think that way. It would never occur to them to let Trump be president for 2 terms so they can get rid of him once and for all. Would never occur to them. Now, we do this all the time. Back in 1992, I had people calling me here, Rush, we need to let Bill Clinton win. We need to show people how rotten socialism is. We need people to learn how rotten and how destructive the Democrat Party has become. Therefore, we need to win by losing. And I have heard this from countless other people through the years about other Democrats. We need to let that guy win, Rush, so that we can let people know how bad socialism or Democrat Party politics is or what have you. I don't think that the Democrat Party would ever think there's anything on the upside to letting Trump win in 2020 just so they can be rid of him for good in 2024. I'll guarantee you this. They were scared to death that if Trump had another 4 years, that they might not win anything again. There might be such great things happening in this country after 4 more years of Trump that the American people wouldn't have wanted any part of the Democrat. That would be a distinct possibility. It's also possible that the Democrats would have literally pulled out all the stops to defeat, to impugn, to wipe Trump out in these next 4 years. But they weren't going to sit by and even let him win. And had he won, they weren't going to sit by and let him govern. We've already determined that. This is Christy in Springfield, Missouri. You're next. Hello.
Merry Christmas, Rush Limbaugh. You're a true American patriot, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, what an honor. And I just have to say, real quick, let's add one other accomplishment to President Trump's endless list, and that is his stand for life. He will be blessed for that. But the main reason I called, Rush, was to say I agree with the gentleman that called earlier. I don't want this $600. They can keep it. It is an insult, a slap in the face to give all that money to other nations. I don't want the money. And I would urge the president, please, sir, don't sign this bill.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever something that begged to be vetoed, it's this.
Absolutely.
No question about it. Now, I have this list. You know, it's been 2 hours since I ran through that list, and there may be people listening right now that don't know exactly what you're talking about. No fault of theirs, other than that they weren't listening here when I did it. We could blame them for that. But I also could go through the list again after the break here coming up at the bottom of the hour, which might be wise to do that. Because did you hear what I said about Pelosi? 2018, she called a $1,000 tax bonus peanuts, called it crumbs. Now says this $600 coronavirus benefit is truly great. I mean, she knows.
And she can keep her money.
Well, I understand the sentiment. I know a lot of people probably do. But even if there wasn't this money going elsewhere, $600, if you're going to start giving the money away, that's an insult. Welcome back. Great to have you with us, Rush Limbaugh. Half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. The holidays should be a time you can focus on family and spending time with those around you, those that you love. It should not be a time where you find yourself contending with bad things like cyber theft. And that often happens when your computer or your phone is hacked. And that happens more often this time of year because of the increase in online holiday purchases. Now, how do you protect yourself? Well, we have the method. You protect yourself and your devices with software called Norton 360. Norton 360, real-time protection for your phones and your computers. Norton 360, called 360 because it's totally encompassing. It includes a virtual private network. Best thing you can do. Your connection cannot even be seen. You could be seated right next to the hacker in a public Wi-Fi place like coffee shop. He will not, or she will not see your connection. A VPN shields and hides your identity when you're online. It hides your connection. It's as if you don't exist on Wi-Fi sites. Without Norton 360, cyber thief can spot you and your information within a minute that you access Wi-Fi, even if it's password protected. But that's not all that Norton 360 does. In addition to the VPN software that shields your presence and identity, Norton 360 provides a password manager. It protects your webcam from being taken over and a whole host of other services. You know, the camera on your laptop cover? They've got a plan that deals with that too. And you can protect up to 5 devices on a single account. Phone, tablets, laptop, whatever you have and use to stay connected. Now understand, no one can prevent all cybercrime, but Norton 360 is a smart way for your cyber safety. Save 50% off your first year with an annual subscription at norton.com/rush. That's norton.com/rush. 50% off. Okay, let me very quickly run through some of the additional spending on this COVID relief bill. And actually, my friends, the spending in this bill is actually much worse because this bill, which is 5,500 some odd pages, is not just a COVID relief bill. The $900 billion COVID relief bill was just tacked on to the year-end $1.4 trillion appropriations bill. And that keeps the government from shutting down. Don't you know? We always go through this every January. So there was a threat of a government shutdown, so we have a $1.4 trillion appropriations bill to keep the government running. You add the $900 billion COVID relief bill, and what do we have? Well, that's like $2.3 trillion. And that's even pretending that the $900 billion is all for COVID relief, and it isn't. It's an absolute boondoggle, and it's typical. The point that I made at the beginning of the program going through this is welcome to returning to the way things used to be. This is exactly the way things used to be before Trump was elected. It's right out there in the open. Starts with this. Family members of illegal aliens are now able to get stimulus checks under this new bill. And it's retroactive, so they can also get the previous $1,200 that's given out. So family members of illegal aliens are able to get stimulus checks, $900 or $600 plus the previously allocated $1,200, $1,800 for them. Family members of illegal aliens. There is billions of dollars going to foreign aid. $169 million to Vietnam. Unspecified amounts to continue support for nonprofits for higher education in Kabul, Afghanistan. $198 million to Bangladesh. $130 million to Nepal for development and democracy programs. Pakistan, $15 million for democracy programs and $10 million for gender programs. This is in the COVID relief bill that gets you $600. Sri Lanka, you ready for this? Up to $15 million for the refurbishing of a high-endurance boat. A type of patrol boat, a cutter. I kid you not. Sri Lanka is getting $15 million to repair one of their patrol boats. $505 million to the Central American superpower Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama to address key factors that contribute to the migration of unaccompanied, undocumented minors to the U.S. Are you kidding me? $505 million to address? What's that? Key factors that contribute to the migration. So $505 million to these nations in Central America to stop it? To address key factors that contribute to the migration of maybe it's to increase it. The Democrats think we need to increase the numbers of illegals. What? $505 million. $461 million to Colombia for programs related to counter narcotics and human rights. $75 million to the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. Tax breaks for racehorse owners. It's the way things used to be. just 4 short years ago. Back to the phones we go. Jonathan, Mission Viejo, California. You're up next. I'm glad you waited. Hi.
Rush, Merry Christmas. We're praying for you, and we love you. I think, I thought about this the other day. You're as important to my generation, the Gen Xers, as George Washington and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were to the founding generation.
That is...
You make that big of a difference, and you're that important, and we love you. We're praying for you.
Thank you very much. That's overwhelming. I can't thank you enough for that.
So listen, Rush, I'm the COO of a small business here in Southern California, and we've been working remote for the past almost year, and we've not had a very good year, and I think a lot of that has been related to COVID. We made a strategic decision to have people come back into the office on January 4th. And then at the beginning of December, this bureaucratic body called the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health, they released their guidelines for coming back to work and what we're supposed to follow. And Rush, this is the biggest bunch of BS I've ever read. Unbelievable what they, and this is for every business in California. You are required to follow this. Let me tell you one of the things that what we're supposed to do.
All right.
We're supposed to check the quality of our outside air with our air conditioning units to make sure that there's enough outside air coming into the offices.
What?
Yeah.
How the hell are you supposed to do that?
That's a great question. I would like to know. Good.
The quality of your outside air with your air conditioning units
Yes.
to make sure there's enough outside air coming into the offices?
Yes.
Well, how the hell does air conditioning work if it doesn't make sure that's happening?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe they want us to put, $100 HEPA air filters on each of our registers.
Yeah, it's going to be something like that.
Unreal. So here's another good one. So we're trying to bring people back, right? And so they tell us we're supposed to physically distance. And here's one of the ways that we're supposed to physically distance: by eliminating the need for workers to be in the workplace.
You want to bring them back. You want to relocate them in the office. Read that to me again. Eliminating the need for workers to be in the workplace?
Exactly.
Haven't you already done that? Haven't you already demonstrated you know how to do that?
Right, exactly. So we're supposed to bring people back by eliminating the need. What, we're supposed to just shut the company down? Let them go?
If you eliminate the need for them to be in the workplace, then, of course, you're signing on to not bringing them back.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's completely asinine what they've written here. And this is unelected bureaucrats who have the power to control every business in California.
Yeah. I know it full well.
I mean, it makes me sick. And here in the left coast, beautiful California, where we have to deal with this kind of stuff, and...
Well, I'm curious, what has changed out there to make you think you could, even without these OSHA regs that you just shared, what made you think you could bring them back anyway? Because aren't most California businesses not yet ready for that?
Well, Rush, we have been told that the kind of business that we're in, we're essential, right? So we've been deemed essential by the state. So we have the ability to bring people back. We had decided not to do it for a little while because people were scared, and you do want to keep morale up. And so for the first couple months, things were fine. But as we've gotten into the year, we've noticed a huge difference in the way that we communicate, in the morale of the company, in the way we interact with each other. We can't continue to run the business this way. We need people here in the office.
Right.
And I think a lot of companies are figuring this out. At the start, it's like, great, I'm going to work from home. Yeah, well you've got 100 other things distracting you.
I don't know what your business is, but I saw that Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, said within the past couple of weeks that they're not going to be bringing people back at the earliest until July.
Yeah.
2021.
I don't know how that's feasible, and especially for a small business. How are you supposed to get people to adapt to your culture when you don't have them around you? It's not possible. We have a way we need to do things. We need to train people. We need to bring them on and show them what we do. You can't do that remotely. That's very difficult for a small business to do that. But the state of California seems to think it's completely possible and fine, and all the businesses are going to run just fine without people in the office.
That these these bureaucracies that have never, ever had to make a payroll. They've never run a business, slap these regulations on you that are just nonsensical, and they illustrate a flat-out total ignorance of the way the business world works in their own state.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Rush, one thing I've thought about a couple times that I don't think people have made a good point of dealing with, even President Trump when he was doing his campaign for the election. There is no danger for any of these unelected bureaucrats or even our elected senators, representatives in California, federal government. None of them are going without a paycheck. None of them.
That's exactly right, too. No matter what, the people making these regulations are never going to face a loss of income. They're never going to face it. These government, staff pukes and so forth. You're absolutely 100% correct. I wish I had more time, Jonathan, but I got to go. I'm a little long now, but I'm really glad you got through, and I very, very much appreciate your words at the beginning of the call. Got to take a quick time out, folks. We'll be right back.
In times like these, we need him more than ever. Rush on the EIB Network.
It's the fastest 3 hours in media, and let's make the most of it. Back to Adam in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Hello, Rush. Thank you so much for taking my call. Merry Christmas. And, sir, you are definitely family to me. No, it's not Open Lines Friday, but I need to tell you what I mean by family. Grow up, lifelong listener, thanks to my father, Jeffrey, and my grandfather, Monroe. We've always listened to you, and my grandfather was fortunate enough to go see you live in your studio.
Oh, a TV show,
He passed away when I was in high school, and when I think of him, I can picture him clearly. I picture him in your studio looking up at the monitors like he's not supposed to, licking his lips. 3 years ago, I was driving with my wife after a particularly rough year, turned on the radio, and you were there. Started to tear up, and my wife said, "What's going on?" I said, "Because when I listen to Rush, when I listen to you, I remember my grandfather, and I remember my father, who lives in South Carolina. And every time I hear you, we're all three together. Your voice, sir, transcends time and space. Wow. And whether you're listening in heaven or you're listening on this earth, we all thank you."
That is heart-stopping. That's incredible. And I happen to know what you mean, which is why it's so meaningful. I've had similar things happen. Just a short example here. I remember one of the reasons I like Mannheim Steamroller is I was in an airplane around Christmas time. And I was flying out to California. I had a Rush Texas tour stop, had to do. My father had recently passed away. I was thinking about him. And I'm looking out the window. I've got a window seat. And it's a crystal clear night with the moon just as visible as it can be. And Mannheim Steamroller is on my tape deck. That's what we used back then to listen to music. There were no such thing as iPods or things like that. And so I've had marvelous remembrances of my dad while I'm listening to Mannheim Steamroller. And it made me, every time I heard Mannheim Steamroller, it's what made me think of my dad. We all have these connections. I am so honored and flattered to be yours that I don't know what to say. I just have this profound appreciation. I'm glad you got through, and I really, really do appreciate very much all of that.
Somebody has to have the guts to say it. Rush on the EIB Network.
Well, that's it, my friends. We have one more day before the end of the year, before Christmas, and that'll be tomorrow. Don't miss it. Be looking forward to it myself. So Again, appreciate very much all of you, your patience, your understanding, and your excitement over what's to come. We'll see you tomorrow. Absolutely.